Oh, we're going to start with the little video.
Oh, yeah, okay.
All right.
That was beautiful.
Thank you.
Well, again, I'm Hunter Hindman from Argonaut, creative agency, and this is Lynn Fischer, the CMO of XO. I think we got a sneak peek there into XO a little bit, and I know that we just met, and one of the things that I thought was so awesome is our passion for helping startups transform categories and disrupt them. And I think we both have a bit of a rich history in doing that. You with like City Bikes and Lyft, and now XO, and really kind of disrupting that space. And some of the experiences that I've had that kind of felt like it connected with brands like Fitbit, NerdWallet, Credit Karma, the Zebra, and others. But I just wanted to start for a second and just kind of see if you wanted to tell us a little bit more about XO. I know we got a nice sneak peek in that video.
Sure. Yeah. Hi, everybody. So great to be here. And by the way, back live at South by Southwest. Feels great to be at an event. So thank you, Brand Innovators, for having us. Yes, round of applause for that. So a little bit about XO background, and we'll get into the disruption part, but XO is a part of Vista Global, which is a private aviation ecosystem. And Vista acquired two companies a number of years ago, XO Jet Aviation and JetSmarter, and we merged the two to really look at pulling the power and technology from JetSmarter and aligning it with the experience in aircraft management and operations from XO Jet Aviation. And XO Global was formed in 2019. So we're an international company with global reach. We fly or have flown to over 187 countries. We have offices in South Florida, Dubai, and London. And we have a range of aircraft, 200 that are owned and managed, and then another 2,000 that are what we call a alliance fleet, safety vetted alliance fleet. And all of those aircraft and options are available booking through a mobile app. So that's what's really transforming this industry, taking away from the legacy approach of calling a broker, getting a number of quotes, getting a fax back and forth, to being able to book it through your mobile device.
That's so cool. I was really curious, and I think other people might be. Why the name XO?
Sure. So in aviation parlance, XO is executive officer. So that's where it comes from. XO Jet Aviation created that name, and when we formed the two companies, became XO Global, we really felt like that was fitting.
It's very, very interesting. And, I meant to bring up at the very beginning, congratulations on being the official partner of South by Southwest and the sole partner of aviation with South by Southwest. It's a very, very cool thing. I was curious, it's a pretty powerful statement for your brand, and it feels like it might be a hint as far as who you may be targeting, the audience you're going after.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, and thank you for the congrats on that. It's a organization that we look forward to and aspire to be like, I would say. Companies that are really looking to getting together innovators and creators in a space to make ideas and thoughts happen and come together. So we approached South by Southwest about being a private aviation partner. We really were mindful of understanding who the audience is and making sure that we communicated that it was about a private aviation company that is trying to make this industry more transparent, more efficient, and more accessible. So we felt like it was fitting for us to align ourselves with an organization where innovation happens.
It's interesting. When I think about global private jets. I think I typically kind of start to picture champagne, entourages, chocolate-covered strawberries. There's almost this Tindler Swindler meets kind of Succession kind of vibe, which definitely feels very different than the folks that show up at South by Southwest, and I'm guessing a very different vibe than what actually it's like to fly an XO.
We find that you do see images like that,
Okay.
and it's not to say that private aviation is not luxurious. It's certainly an elevated way of flying, but we really think it's a utility for many people, and especially many business owners, entrepreneurs, innovators. It's a way that will save you time. It is an efficient way of traveling, and it's a safer way to travel right now with fewer touch points. So there was a McKinsey study done not too long ago that showed when you fly commercially, there's 700 touch points going through security, arriving at the terminal. Private aviation reduces that down to about 20 to 30. So it is a safer, more convenient, and with some of the technology that we're bringing forward with things like shared charter and crowd-funded flights, we're making it more accessible too. So we wanted to expose our brand to groups and those attending events like South by Southwest to show that this is a form of travel that can be right for you. We want to appeal for the innovators, creators, and game changers of tomorrow because we want to help them make an impact in their world and in the companies that they're building.
Could you talk a little bit more, because I find it really fascinating, the crowdsourcing and kind of crowdfunding of flights and flight pass?
Sure. So XO offers a variety of ways to fly. So we say we have a number of ways to fly and a number of ways to buy. But the number of ways to fly are maybe the more traditional, which is you can charter a full aircraft, but you can also buy an individual seat on a private jet. And many people don't realize that that's even possible. I can go into my app, I can look for, let's say, New York to Miami, I can find a seat, I can book it, and I can show up 30 minutes before the flight takes off right to what we call a fixed base operator, an FBO, which is a small terminal, and they get walked out onto the tarmac, up the stairs, and then maybe I'm not always drinking champagne, but it's a very efficient and comfortable way to fly.
Sometimes mimosas,
I'll have a mimosa sometimes,
Okay,
yes.
Cool.
And then the other option is crowdfunding. So let's say you look in our app and you don't see the flight that you're trying to find. You can start a crowdfunded flight. So let's say we look in the app today, Hunter, and say, okay, we want to fly from Austin to LA. We can start a flight in the app. Then we can put, let's say it's an aircraft that seats 10, which is a super mid-size. We can put it back on our platform and reach out to our friends and colleagues and get those other seats sold. So it allows you to fly in a way that puts the power back into your hands, literally through your mobile device, but also makes flying, accessible. So about a tenth of the price of full charter in that case.
Wow.
And then the other option is if you didn't initiate the flight, you can also join. So you can look in the app and someone has already started a flight, you can join that flight. And then one more opportunity for this type of sharing economy is if I charter the full aircraft and I'm flying with my colleagues, but we have 4 open seats, we can put those open seats back up on the platform. So it really is giving freedom and flexibility to private aviation where it didn't exist before.
Disrupting a space like this and really creating a new behavior is a real challenge. And I think something that's on everyone's minds, probably in this room, is, as you're scaling a brand and trying to acquire, new customers, to get those signups, to get those new users, how do you balance brand building with performance? Because, obviously you have a wealth of data at your disposal.
Yeah.
So really curious, kind of like, how do you find that right ability to kind of focus on bringing those new users in while also establishing a really, relevant, interesting brand?
Yes, I think this is a conundrum for most marketers, right? Hunter and I talked about this yesterday. And it's building brand, but it's also working in an organization that's data-driven and sales-driven. So how do you make sure that you combine messaging that hopefully drives leads, drives sales? I'm looking at Max, who's one of our aviation advisors here, who, we work very closely with our sales department, right? And I think that's the other piece. How do you work collaboratively with departments to understand their needs? And then how do you balance both driving lead, whether it's through promotion or offers, with also making sure that you're talking about the value proposition and the benefits of the brand. And I think there are ways to do that, and there are ways to do that through visual communication and also messaging. And it's something that I joined XO about 8 months ago, something that I've been working with the company to modify and really move towards brand building, and as you put yesterday, Hunter, a brand performance, which I like the combination of the term.
Yeah, I mean, it happens on an ExoJet.
So I think it happens often, and that's what we really love about the shared product that we have. It puts together people in a space, in an intimate space. So let me describe the example of our New York to South Florida route. We typically fly a CRJ, and that aircraft typically has about 60 seats. We reconfigured it for 16. Much more comfortable, a nice way of flying from New York to South Florida, and an intimate environment where you're with 15 other people that are like-minded. Maybe they're coming from the same area, New York City or South Florida. They might have similar interests. You know that they're interested in this way of travel. And so oftentimes we hear that there are collaborations formed, deals struck, friendships and connections that are made in flight that we don't typically see in other forms of travel.
Yeah, most definitely. I'm curious, as you look around at a room like this, is this something that you think that people in this room and their businesses could be leveraging?
I do. I think it seems like an inaccessible way to travel, and what we're trying to do is change that, right? Make it more efficient, more transparent, and more accessible. So one, I think, it was typically hidden behind walls of companies or veils of mystique of understanding how you would book a private charter. Now we're making that accessible and transparent through our app and through our website. But also what we start to think is how efficient it is for an entrepreneur, a startup, a company. Hunter and I were talking about this yesterday, and talking about the idea of like how efficient it is if you're in the air with, let's say, 5 or 10 of your other colleagues without distractions, how much work you can get done.
I love it. I mean, I have had a very limited experience with private jet travel, but the little I have was awesome. I will say there was champagne, there was chocolate-covered strawberries, and there was a golden toilet in the plane I was on. But it was the efficiency, I think, of that travel, the flexibility of it, but then also the ability to work as you were moving towards a business meeting. I think that was the thing that was like really eye-opening as far as just reframing my idea that it wasn't the luxuries that I thought it was going to be was slightly different. It was that luxury of time, flexibility, and that ability to connect with people, which is just so different. You can't do that in commercial travel.
That's right. And so we're thinking, how do we truly revolutionize this industry? How do and the way we think about that is combining data intelligence with distinct service to allow you to reach anywhere in the world just by reaching for your mobile device. So that's really our mission. And also by thinking about new and different ways that people can use this service, to your point, an offsite in the air, right? Where you can collaborate, where you can share ideas and do it in a space that's inspiring.
I thought we were keeping that idea secret, but
Okay.
now that the cat's out of the bag, I think it's a really fascinating idea for companies, as far as I look at how much companies try to do team building, try to create these memorable experiences, and you look at the cost of that, and when you compare it to XO, it's very similar, and I think everyone would come away with this experience they talk about for the rest of their lives. I mean, that time I traveled private was probably like, I hate to say it, I think it was 10 years ago, and I still have such fond memories, and such regret about returning to commercial travel.
So you heard it here at Brand Innovators.
That's it. Hot tip.
Yeah.
So I did want to get personal for a second, if that's okay with everybody.
Okay.
What drew you to XO and this notion of democratizing, private aviation?
Sure. So I've spent a number of years in the mobility space, as you mentioned. I was at City Bike and then Lyft, and then was at a tech innovation hub in the Brooklyn Navy Yard called New Lab, where they had a lot of transportation mobility startups. So certainly a passion of mine, and also the efficiencies that it allows in the sharing economy was a passion. Companies that are transforming industries with technology. And XO reached out to me, and I was really really captured by this idea of private aviation doesn't always sound like something that is creating efficiencies for travel, but the fact that we're using technology for a shared economy and that you can reduce, let's say, carbon emissions, because here's a good stat, Hunter. A typical private jet is flying 2.3 passengers. Our shared private jets are, on average, 10 people. So just think about the efficiencies there in private aviation travel and how we're looking to change that. But back to why I was interested, I also, interestingly, have come from a family of aviators. So it was exciting to have EXO reach out to me and combine the mobility space, but also a passion for aviation. I grew up, my dad is a retired commercial pilot. My sister is a captain for American, which is amazing because there are not that many women still in aviation. Her husband flies for United, and my uncle works for the FAA, and I'm a student private pilot. So combining the passions together at this stage of my career is super exciting, and I think that hopefully as marketers we all get the chance to do that.
I love that. It's so great. I think when your personal passions can collide with your profession. Work and life are so intertwined now. I'm also just really happy that those glasses are more than just fashion. That you actually have like pilots glasses on
my
because you
aviator
fly.
glasses.
It's so cool. I really love it.
I need them to see. So yes.
I did want to pick up on something you brought up because it is something that's interesting as you're kind of disrupting a category and just acknowledging that it is International Women's History Month. Aviation is something that, again, I think of aviator glasses. I think of the captain up at the front with his hat and his mustache, and it's a man. But you're also, I think, coming in and kind of disrupting things as a woman that's at the helm now of an industry that does seem like, for the most part, and maybe I'm wrong, so correct me, but it feels for the most part has been a pretty male-dominated industry.
That's true. And I do hope to play a part in changing that, not just at EXO, but being a representative of an aviation company in a leadership position, and looking at guiding other women in our profession and at our company. Another example is we're partaking in Women in Aviation. It's a conference that's happening next week in Nashville, and EXO plays a big part of that to look to support and encourage talent to be a part of this industry, whether it's being a pilot, someone who's working in maintenance, or aviation sales.
Is there? I know that you're relatively new at EXO, but is there one thing that you can think of that you wish you could go back and tell yourself when you first started that you've learned now?
Oh, wow. Probably so many things.
It doesn't have to be one.
Someone told me when I first started, who works in this industry, Lynn, it will take you 6 months to learn it. And I was like, oh, no, I don't have 6 months to learn. But I have to say, about 8 months in, I feel like I really have good footing. I mean, it's a very complex industry, but the exciting thing is I continue to learn. It's a challenging industry. It's complex. There's a lot of logistics, operations. And as a marketer, I think that's interesting. We talked about this. I've also worked on the agency side, where it gives you the luxury of just thinking about the marketing and the creative. And then when you're on the brand side, how you think about the business and all the mechanics and logistics of it. And it's fascinating. I learn from people every day. And it's interesting, the growth of our company, where we've started to build leadership with people who come from the technology space. So from companies like Apple and CPG companies that are tech forward, like Dyson. So it's bringing different thinking and energy for a tech forward company, and that's what's exciting.
I think a lot of brands forget this at times, and just the importance of letting your brand be consistent across both consumer touch points and also your employer brand. How is it to recruit and try to get talent into your organization? I mean, obviously it's got to be somewhat easy because you have private travel and all those amazing ideas that come with that. But how is that as far as flexing the brand to actually kind of pull people in to become a part of your mission?
It's a little bit challenging, actually, because probably, as most people know, the hiring market is challenging, right? There people are hiring, and it's always kind of tricky to find good talent. But you are right. There is something that's appealing to working for a private aviation company. Yeah. But we do also think about, how do we make sure that we're communicating that we're a technology company? and we're looking to innovate so that we attract not just the pilots and the crew that we need, but also data scientists, engineers, technologists, and creative thinkers. So that is something that I've been working on with our HR team. How do we show up at the right events? How do we tell the right story? But it is an interesting component to marketing, is doing that internal marketing to make sure that you hire and keep the right talent.
It's so important. I mean, talent is everything. It really, really defines the culture, the product, and the experience that the customers ultimately have. Going back, I guess, all the way to the start for a second, and this notion of disrupting categories. Obviously, I think you're probably the only person in the room here that's disrupting private aviation, I'm guessing. So is there any kind of lessons that you might share for other people that are trying to disrupt the category that they're in?
I wonder if anyone else is in private aviation.
I know, you looked around, you kind of had a hard look around the room.
I would say, like, and I'm thinking back also to Lyft and City Bike, and also at New Lab, where we're always looking to think creatively, push things forward, be unexpected, try new things, and I think it's always has to be the mantra of how you wake up and how you go to work every day, is thinking about the industry creatively and not how it's been done before.
And in an organization that's very data-driven, like I think most organizations are now, it's an amazing safety blanket and an amazing tool to use. How do you get an organization like XO, or how might you recommend other people in these data-driven groups to get comfortable with taking creative risks?
Meaning internally?
Internally, yeah, like having that courage to kind of take that data, but then also kind of look beyond it. Because again, whenever you're disrupting, you kind of are doing something new, and so there isn't really a great data set of what's happened in the past, because you're creating the future. Right. And so I'm just kind of curious if there's anything that you kind of look to, or mantras that maybe you kind of hold on to that kind of help kind of give you, and I think also your team, the courage, I think, to take creative risks.
Sure. I think part of it comes from the culture, but also how do you make sure that you're creating a brand and the positioning that help guides your team, right, and gives them the right guardrails. So when I came on board, I think we talked about this, I looked at all of the messaging and the marketing that our competitors do, and I lined it up, and I put my hand over the logo, and they all looked very similar, right? It's a beautiful interior of an aircraft, drinking champagne, chocolate-covered strawberries. So I really wanted to say, and worked with my team, where's the white space for us? How do we position ourselves? And we really feel like we are the creator brand in private aviation. So we aspire to be like an Apple or a Tesla, let's say, versus a Bentley or a Rolls Royce, right? We want someone to connect with our brand because we are thinking ahead, we are innovative, we are creative, and we get inspired by others who are doing the same. So what we're trying to do is communicate that internally and externally, and I think that's what gives people the confidence and the inspiration to drive technology and innovation forward and to make a positive impact on this industry.
I love it. You're creating history instead of repeating it. It's a really, really bold way, I think, to look forward. I'd love to open it up to questions from the audience. Is there anyone that has oh, there you go. I see a hand raised. Am I going to bring this microphone back?
Hey, you can shout, right? I can shout. Okay. Thank you so much. I have so many questions, but champagne is good, chocolate-covered strawberries are good, but what I want to know is my bag going to fit in the overhead? Yeah? All right.
Oh, there are questions like that too, but that is what's the great part about when I talked about the flexibility and freedom of options of XO. With 200 aircraft and different cabin sizes, there are the options saying you might want to fly with your golf clubs or your skis. Yes. And your family, and you could talk to someone like Max on our team, or look in the app and understand the configuration of an aircraft, decide what cabin class is right for you, decide what route is correct for you, and pricing. So again, making it transparent, making it available and accessible, even down to things like, will my skis and my golf clubs fit?
Awesome. Well, thank you. It was actually not a serious question, but thank you for answering.
Oh.
I actually had another question for you.
I don't mind.
So obviously, like the business travel piece is all of the stuff you talked about. I love the in-air collaboration piece, have you thought about official mentorship type of conversations where you're like, we're matching people up based on expertise on what they want to talk to each other? Yes.
Yeah, I love that question. And then it gets back to understanding data and preferences of customers, because what we are trying to do is understand our customer better so that we can match like-minded people, whether it's where they're traveling to or what they want to talk about or businesses that they're looking to start. How do we create the real social connectivity that is already happening organically? We are looking to use technology and innovation to support that. So that's a great question.
But I'll answer that. So on the way here, you had a crowdsourced flight from New York to South by.
That's right.
So your like-minded people are all on that same, the 10 people are all on that plane looking to accomplish something that's out there.
Right, exactly, which is why we partnered with South by Southwest to make sure that innovators and creators know that you can create this type of flight and opportunity to connect, whether it's traveling here or traveling to the Super Bowl or traveling to another cultural event. It's really about connecting like-minded people that can really make an impact.
I love that idea of a Brand Innovators Marketing Summit in the air. I'm going to
Okay,
give that
let's
to you
do
guys.
it.
Let's make it happen, right?
Next question. When are we doing a round table in the air? This flight to South by, did someone host a conversation, or was everyone just on the way there?
It was all people that were coming here for the conference for their various reasons, but they were all coming to South by.
And please, I might do a plug, go to flyxo.com, and you can, there we have a banner on the home page that links you to the page for crowdfunding to and from Austin. So if you flew here in one style, you might want to try XO home, and we encourage you to do that.
So thinking of the future of mobility and potential expansions of the brand outside or maybe within air, what other types of private transportation are you thinking of?
Sure. And we always are looking forward. What is the next opportunity for travel? So if you fly into the local airport here, how do you get to the last few miles? So we are looking at different innovation in that space, like eVTOLs in different areas. And it's something that we continue to look forward in all areas of air mobility.
We have time for about one more. You got another one? Yes.
I thought it was really
A
interesting.
little louder if you can.
I thought it was interesting how your C-suite folks talk to the XO customers, and was just wondering if you have any ideas on scaling that for larger organizations.
Yeah, that's a great question. We felt like it was fairly scalable in that we're using Zoom technology. So much of the leadership team was remote, as was our client. We try to schedule one a month. That may not be usually, a big data set of a focus group, but we find it usually helpful. As I mentioned, just the connection to the client and their feedback, but also the feeling that we care about them. So I think even doing one a month and identifying a customer, and what we found is most customers were super excited to speak with us. Some of our hesitancy was, will they want to take the time to speak with someone that provides their air travel? Well, in fact, they do. We're a big part of their lives, but they were more than that. They were excited to share their views and be heard.
I'm going to say one thing on the corporate travel as a
You
group.
said a little louder.
Phones are down. When you're in the air and your group is together on that plane, a lot of work gets accomplished because there's no distraction.
That's right. No distraction in the air, and more collaboration, more connection at 30,000 feet than there is on the ground.
Can we all get a big round of applause for Lynn Fischer, CMO, XO?
Thank you.